You're watching SBA Today. With all the latest news, stories, and advice, here are your hosts, Paul Long and Tonya Mazurek.
Welcome to SBA Today for the week of February 25th. I am Paul.
And I'm Tonya. And today we've got a lot for you, so we need to just jump right into this, right? All right. Well, the Senate just confirmed Kelly Loeffler as SBA Administrator. Administrator Loeffler's confirmation comes after the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship voted her in 12-7 to advance her nomination as SBA Administrator 2 weeks ago. Speaking of twos, only 2 days on the job, and already here we go. Buckle up, Buttercup. Do you have that clip we can play by chance? Okay.
Well, I think the big question everyone asking is how is this going to affect us? Well,
I think is it too strong for me to say, well, yes, it's going to affect us. I think there's going to be logistics to figure out in the offices, obviously, because they've not been worked in for some time. Equals slowdown. There will be attrition likely of staff that either cannot or will not come back to the office space, as we've seen in others, equals slowdown. Hiring new people to replace those that leave equals slowdown, and not hiring people if people leave equals slowdown. So yeah, I think in the short run, we're definitely going to feel it. There's going to be a little squeeze and timing's going to get slower. Just going to happen. Over the long run, though, who knows? That remains to be seen. I'd imagine there's going to be some pros and some cons to what's going on, as there are in most things. And I personally like to give it a second before, making a judgment call on if it's good or bad or pro or con or positive or negative. But regardless, hey, it's happening. So there you go.
Well, I will make judgments right off the bat. If you guys know me, that's
why does that not surprise me?
So let me tell you this. For example, like for me, if I could not have work from home employees at my shop within my 3-state footprint, I would not be here today. So there's just no way of doing it. So I think it's going to be, I think this is going to have some pain long term because not everyone is going to want to move to Washington, D.C. or wherever the office is. It's scary, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think that's across the board, and in everything that we see, that's what's going on. I mean, look at the whole Jamie Dimon thing with his bank and everybody getting upset and whatnot because he's bringing everybody into the office. I don't think it's the only industry even, or the government's not the only thing that's doing it. I think it's across the board. Some of those are coming up. Whether they need to be there or not, I don't know. I don't work there. I have no idea how that works. I know in ours, we absolutely can work remote and hybrid. I love, sometime, being with my people and stuff, but it also takes so much time to actually get there. And yes, there is a little bit, well, as you know, right? We work all hours of the day. I don't know.
Correct.
That's not how they work though. They go in, they shut things down. Typically, I'm assuming they go home, they have their family life. We don't have that. We're just on all the time. So
I think this is going to be interesting. Yeah. I just sit back with my popcorn and see how it works
that's kind of what I do because we both know there's going to be pros and there's going to be cons. Maybe it speeds some things up over time. I don't know, and gets back to what we're familiar with way back when. And maybe it doesn't.
Bull honky.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Give me some of that popcorn, Paul. Come on, give me some of that popcorn. Ship it to me. Anyway. Hey, I'm trying to be optimistic now.
That's why we're yin and yang on this show, and I think it works great that way.
Anyway.
So jumping into our next story. So there's some Biz Buy Sell does a year-end review. And it's really awesome, some of the data that comes out. So the number of businesses bought and sold grew in 2024 by 5%. Okay, I like that. So that was a total of 9,546 closed transactions. Of course, that was through Biz Buy Sell. There's probably another 20% on top of that that were under the table buys, right? Representing an enterprise value of $7.59 billion. Well, wouldn't we all like to have just a little piece of that pie, right? Which is 15% higher than 2023. So it really is indicating, greater concentration of higher price deals, which, let's be real, every BDO loves to hear. So even though the Federal Reserve cut rates, they're still feeling that still grew. So buyers did pay higher prices for businesses in 2024. The median sale price rose 3% year over year. Let's just call that inflation to $345,000. Well, hold on, that's interesting. That's kind of small, right? And then median days on the market dropped to 168 days, meaning there's a lot more demand. So it's always interesting to hear stats and to see how those are. So I look forward to see what 2025 will be, because God knows my crystal ball is not working. So that's where we're at. What are your thoughts, Tonya?
Yeah. I mean, isn't this where we could throw in, the very large SBA deficit and why? So some of the banks have tightened up their criteria and they've stayed tight even though things have loosened, right? Why have they stayed tight? Well, there's higher defaults. And with higher defaults, that means their butts are on the line, right? And there's money going out, which also means SBA spending their money to back with their guarantee the banks. So it doesn't surprise me, actually, that banks have stayed a little bit more, I guess, tight and not loosened up as much as we would hope. But I don't know. That's my thought. How about you?
I think it's, I think there's institutions out there that have not changed their credit box. And I think that could be okay. I think you just got to look at every deal as like a snowflake. This isn't home mortgage. A plus B equals you're approved. This is commercial lending. It's very complicated and every deal is different. So
every deal is different. That's so true.
Maybe
just like
maybe take that. That's right. Maybe take that extra piece of collateral. I don't know.
Right. Well, absolutely. And okay, small business market cautious of expected Trump administration tariffs. No kidding. It's like, okay, economists are already raising concerns that the new Trump administration's tariff proposals will result in rising costs and possibly worsen inflation. Okay, you got to stop laughing, because I'm trying to hold it together here, like,
Oh, sorry. I'll go back to being professional. Go ahead.
Whatever. We're not professional on this show. That's what makes it great. Anyway, this is worrisome for small business owners still reeling from the effects of the U.S.-China trade war of 2018, with roughly half, 48%, bracing for what may lie ahead. Yes, I'm sure they are. I mean, my goodness. Yet, higher tariffs on imported goods could heighten demand for reshoring, with 15% of owners now seeking out alternative domestic suppliers. Now, that could be a pro and a con. Who knows? I mean, domestic suppliers would definitely grow up, and that could be great. Pricing, who knows, right?
Yeah. There's a quote from Justine, who owns Element Fitness and Wellness Center. So think about fitness equipment. That makes sense. In Washington, D.C., and they say that equipment we have used has gone up in price significantly due to tariffs that were put in place in 2018. We have been purchasing used equipment thus far. However, we will need new equipment in April. So the most likely solution is pass along to the customers, but I'm just going to put in my friendly little thing. Any sort of fitness center has a pretty high default rate. So more costs equals more defaults. So yeehaw.
Have you tightened up in that space?
I have always tightened up in that space.
Yeah.
Honestly, I took a loss years ago at another institution, and it still is.
Oh, so you're kind of like, the credit.
I'm one of those.
They've taken a loss in something, and we wonder why all of a sudden it goes in, and they're like, let me think about that.
I may have an opinion.
Oh,
maybe.
Interesting. All right. Well, did you also know that 1 in 5 business owners say they would raise prices if faced with tariff inflated invoices, which could counter the Fed's fight against inflation? Now, 1 in 5, I'm assuming that only 1 in 5 are saying that they might increase their prices. I'm thinking that number is higher than that.
Well, remember, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest. So, there's no difference on that BS fact.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's funny. So Kent Smatters of the University of Pennsylvania's Penn Wharton budget model, which studies the cost of government policies, states there's no question that tariffs are inflationary. Exactly how much, that's where economists can debate it. Okay. The inflationary impact of tariffs can depend on how consumers react to higher import prices. Do they keep buying the costlier foreign stuff? Whether a coffee maker from China, a box of Swiss chocolates, or a car made in Mexico? Or do they shift to the American-made alternative products that are here on our soil? Or do they just stop buying goods altogether?
Or what about all the businesses that have shipped their main business and manufacturing overseas? What's the cost of bringing that back to the U.S.? What's the time on that? Oh man.
Yeah. I get what's trying to be done. Mm-hmm. I truly get what's trying to be done. I just think to get there, there's going to be a heck of a lot of growing pains.
I would agree with that. And it's not going to be as simple, you're moving a ship, not a, sailboat. It's a very different approach.
Yeah. Well, if I moved a sailboat, it would be pretty scary too.
Well, it would tip over. But...
Blow into the sails.
That's right.
Oh, goodness.
I will say, though, that I do have I have lost a deal recently because the borrower has literally said, whoa, these tariff conversations are scaring me. They manufacture, metal gates, and those, steel prices, all of that. There's a lot of concern with that. And so, it affected me. That was a $2 million deal that I wanted, but I guess I get to wait for that. So, and then jumping into our next story on this is sellers ready to exit their business in 2025. Well, yeah, watch the news. Like, I may want to exit SBA lending. I don't know.
Well, there might be mass exoduses out there.
There may be. Who knows?
The sound of it out there.
But despite weaker financials, a steady volume of businesses continue to be sold. We all know it's the baby boomers, etc. This suggests that owners are opting to exit now rather than wait for a better price down the road. So, in such, it's not surprising that 38% of business brokers believe today's market favors buyers, which I agree, compared to 23% who favors sellers. I think it totally depends on the business and its history, et cetera. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
It will be interesting. And among those business owners seeking to exit, retirement remains their top reason. Imagine that. It's baby boomers, right? 38%, which reflects many businesses are still owned by aging baby boomers. No kidding. Okay. After withstanding recessions, a pandemic, and a variety of other challenges, a challenging labor market appears to be the final straw for some soon-to-be retirees. Well,
don't even get me started on that. But Tonya, Did you know that 50% of business owners believe the labor market is not improving, compared to 19% seeing some relief and 25% that are unsure and clueless and probably shouldn't be in business? Oh, I'm sorry. I added that in. Sorry, that was Paul's comment.
Okay. 50%. Well, I would think 50% would be very low personally. I would think 50% would be, 75%, believe that the labor market is not improving, only because all of these changes, regardless, like I said, regardless where it could end up or where it goes, there's growing pains to get there. And the labor market, bringing people back, this remote thing is going to absolutely do a number, is my guess, because you get used to something and then you create your life around how that works. You create your life around what works for you. People staying home, children, the drive time, I know, in general.
Drive time is back.
The drive time, and then okay. All right. Get me on a soapbox here, but I get the buildings are empty, and I get the problem with the buildings being empty are obviously the commercial investors and whatnot that own these buildings and how this goes. But, and then I get that they're saying, okay, well, they're sitting empty. We're paying for these, bring people back into the office. But the flip side of that is, well, why pay for them if people are out of the office? Just, let them go. But I know what you're going to say, but go ahead, do it.
What about the restaurants that we finance? What about the retail that we finance?
That's what I mean.
What about all of that plays it? And so what is it? Yes, it's nice to be at home, or you're messing up the economy. And let's be real. It's messing up the economy, and they're trying to find the solution.
Well, that's what I mean. And I don't know that there is an easy or perfect solution. So
if there is,
what's that?
If there is, put it in the chat, because you could be in Trump's cabinet.
Oh, you could be. You could help us all, because I don't think any of us realize or know. Any decision that we make one way or the other is going to affect something else, and that's kind of the lowdown of it, right?
There was also a quote that was in there I thought was really interesting from this Kodiak Furniture in Alaska. We are tired. It is incredibly difficult to find good employees that will help us provide the high level of customer service that we're known for. Like it's a different world with different.
Yes.
It's not my parents' workforce anymore, right?
Well, it hasn't been that for so long. Think about that.
Right. COVID destroyed that.
The handshake, no. Now it's like the lawyer documents.
Or hugs. It all depends on how you float.
True that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, this was a fun one, Paul. I don't know. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. It's a lot of information. There's a lot of moving parts, and we shall just see how they all play out and fit together. But regardless, we're here live on Tuesday mornings every week, right here on LinkedIn and YouTube, or any of the streaming platforms where you get your podcast. You can go and watch any of our past shows as well. And while you are there, go ahead and check out our family of podcasts, The Art of SBA Lending and the BDO Show. They'd love to see you as well. Follow us, share with your network, and smash the like button if you like what we're doing. Remember, we love talking SBA, and we love talking to you. So if you've got a burning question or just want to reach out and connect with either Paul or I on LinkedIn, or both of us, in fact, rise up with your big bad selves. In case no one has told you lately, we appreciate you, and you're awesome. See you next week.
Thank you. See ya.